How you doing there? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're starting Daf Lamed Ches, Daf 38 of Masechta Shevuos. Friends, your friends. Okay. Well, yeah, today is also some tricky stuff. Dafka, like the first chunk of today's daf is going to be a little bit tricky. And then we're going to finish the fifth parak of Masechta Shevuos. And I think I'm planning to then start the sixth parak. Basically, I think we'll just learn the Mishnah of the sixth parak of Masechta Shevuos. So, without further ado, okay, here we go. We're going to start on Daf Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, all the way at the top, on the top line of the daf. Shevuos HaPikodin, Ketzad. How goes Shevuos HaPikodin? Tainli Pikodin sheyesh li biyadcha chule. Give me the Pikodin that I got. Okay. Specifically, it's going on. Right? Yeah. Specifically, it's going on. If you look in the Mishnah, about 5-10 lines, somewhere between, maybe around, probably closer to 10 lines before it gets wide, it says, Hayu chamisha tevim eisei. If there were 5 people making a claim from Ruvain, right? So let's say Shimon, Levi, Yehudi, Yisachar, and Zvulun were all making a claim against Ruvain. So, where am I? So, Ayu Chamisha Tovim Oso. Amrlo, Ten Lana B'Kadin Sheish Lana B'Yotcha. Give us back our stuff. Shvuah Shein Lachem B'Yadi. I don't have your stuff. And Chayv Elachas is Chayv once. Shvuah Shein Lachem B'Yadi. V'lo L'cha V'lo L'cha. And then we have the opinion of Rabbi Lazar, who says you have to say shvuah at the end. Rabbi Shimon says you have to say a shvuah for each person in order to be chayiv individually. This is what our the Gemara right now is going on. When you have 5 people that are making a claim, when you have Shimon, Levi, Yehudi, Yisachar, and Zvulun all making a claim against Ruvain, and we're talking about in what scenario? Oh, excuse me, just rubbing my eyes and stuff. Oh, Babylon. Oh boy, stretch. Oh, okay. Oof, look at that. Wow. Now where did that came out of left field? Whoa. Okay. So we're talking about that scenario. Okay. When I'm still under the weather. I'm recording 3 daf today under the weather, and so yesterday's daf I was under the weather. Today's daf I'm under the weather. I have to imagine tomorrow's daf, which I'll probably record in about 2 hours from now. I'll probably also be under the weather. I'll kupon him. So you have Shimon, Levi, Yehudi, Yisachar, and Zvulun. It's all saying to Reuven, "Hey, Reuven, give us back our stuff." So depending on how he responds, he'll be chayiv 1 korban, right? 1 oshum gezelos, or possibly 5 oshum gezeloses. Okay. So now, Tanu Rabbonin, the rabbis taught, Kolal enu chayv achas, parat chayv kolachas v'achas divrei Meir. Says Reb Meir, if he lumps them all together, so then it'll be chayiv 1 oshim gezelis. If he specifies them, so it'll be chayiv 5 oshim gezelises. So again, that's the opinion of Reb Meir. Okay, I told you it's going to be tricky. It's going to be tricky. Trust me. Not like insanely tricky. Not like Reuven the bread and Shimon the bread, but it's going to be tricky. Tanu Rabbanan. I'm going to read that again. That if he lumps them together, excuse me, 1 second. Let me clear my throat. Okay, if he lumps them all together, so then he's chayiv once. Parat, if he specifies them, chayv kolachas v'achas, is chayv for each one individually a separate osham gezelos. Divrei Meir, that is the opinion of Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda says, Reb Yehuda, shvuah lo lecha v'lo lecha chayv kolachas v'achas. And says Reb Yehuda, if Reuven says shvuah lo lecha, not to you, I don't have your stuff, v'lo lecha. I assume also v'lo lecha. You'll be chayiv for each one individually. Now, Chevra, this machlokes between Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda, what exactly they're arguing about, this is going to be our main focus now for the next about 25 lines or so, like that, or so. And it's going to be a little tricky. I imagine it's going to take some time to work. I imagine it's just going to be like slow moving, working through exactly what the machlokes is between them. Okay. Now, Reb Elazar says, Reb Elazar, Lo licha velo licha velo licha shvua chayav kol achas v'achas. Right, if he has shvua at the end of it, so it says lo licha velo licha velo licha shvua, then he's chayav 5 times. Reb Shimon over says, Reb Shimon at yomar shvua l'chol achas v'achas, says Reb Shimon you have to say shvua lo licha, shvua lo licha, shvua lo licha, etc. in order to be chayav 5 osham mi'iluses. Okay. Now, getting back to that machlokes between Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda, what is it? We're going to have now a machlokes between Shmuel and Reb Yochanan about what is the machlokes between Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda. Reb Yehuda Mashmuel says, Reb Yehuda Mashmuel, Klaloi shel Reb Meir, Prato shel Reb Yehuda. Klalo shel Reb Yehuda, Prato shel Reb Meir. Shmuel's opinion is that Reb Meir's opinion and Reb Yehuda's opinion are the inverse of each other, are mamish opposites. Kimayim aponim el aponim. Mamish opposites. So now, wait, maybe forget about the mayim aponim el aponim. I was trying to be tricky and fancy over there. Forget that part. Now, maybe talk makes sense. It's not relevant, but it doesn't matter. I'll call upon him. What do we know, let's say, to start with about Reb Meir's opinion? Not much. All he says is klal, if he lumps them, you're chayiv once. If he specifies them, you're chayiv multiple times. What exactly is he saying? It doesn't give us too much info, so that's what we're trying to figure out. What we know, what did Rabbi Yehuda say? All Rabbi Yehuda said was that if you say lo lecha v'lo lecha v'lo lecha, then chayav kol achas v'achas. So basically, that's kind of all we know right now. Is that for excuse me 1 second. I was eating the Paris of Eretz Yisrael, and I think something got in my mouth that would have driven me nuts. Okay. So now. So basically all we really know right now is that the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda is that if you say Shvua lo lecha v'lo lecha v'lo lecha chayav kol achas v'achas, that would be prat. And if we're saying that Reb Meir is the inverse of Rabbi Yehuda, well then that would be Reb Meir's klal, right? So Rabbi Yehuda is saying that Shvua lo lecha v'lo lecha v'lo lecha chayav kol achas v'achas, chayav 5 osham me'iluses. And if we're saying that Reb Meir is the inverse, then that means that Reb Meir would say that no, that is not a prat, that is a klal, it's a lump. That would be considered a lump, and you would only be chayav once. Okay. Then what is the scenario where Reb Meir would be mechayav al kol achas v'achas? What would be his prat? So that would be shvua lo lecha, lo lecha, lo lecha without the vav. If he says shvua lo lecha, lo lecha, lo lecha, that would be Reb Meir's prat. And that would be, and if we're saying that Reb Yehuda is the inverse of Reb Meir, so that would be Reb Yehuda's klal. Okay, so according to Shmuel, Reb Meir's opinion is klal is shvua lo lecha, v'lo lecha, v'lo lecha, and prat, according to Reb Meir, is shvua lo lecha, lo lecha, lo lecha. That's Reb Meir's opinion. And Reb Yehuda's is the inverse, that klal is shvua lo lecha, lo lecha, lo lecha, and prat is shvua lo lecha, v'lo lecha, v'lo lecha. That is the opinion of Shmuel. Shmuel explains their machlokas that away. Okay, so maybe let's read it again. Amar Reb Yehuda Amar Shmuel says, Yehuda Amar Shmuel, klaloi shel Reb Meir, prato shel Reb Yehuda. Reb Meir's klal is Reb Yehuda's prat. Klal shel Reb Yehuda is prato shel Reb Meir. Reb Yehuda's klal is Reb Meir's prat. And it's as I explained who says what. Reb Yechanan Omar, says Reb Yechanan, Hakol modim bevilo licha shehu prat. So Reb Meir says that actually they are not the inverses of each other. That actually Reb Meir agrees with Reb Yehuda that Shvua lo licha vilo licha Chayiv al kol achas v'achas. They agree on that. Lo nechliku ela bit lo licha. Where they argue is Shvua lo licha, lo licha, lo licha. Reb Meir would say that is also a prat. Reb Yehuda would say that is a klal. Reb Meir omer prat, Reb Yehuda omer klal. That Reb Meir says it's a prat, and Reb Yehuda says klal. So meaning, Reb Meir says that both Shvua lo licha, vilo licha, as well as Shvua lo licha, lo licha. Those are both prats. Ayu b'chayva kol achas v'achas. Reb Yehuda says that Shvua lo licha, vilo licha is a prat, but the klal would be Shvua lo licha, lo licha. And what would therefore be the klal of Reb Meir? Because Reb Meir says that both, according to Reb Yochanan, Reb Meir says that both lo licha and vilo licha are prats. So then what's his klal? Ve'ezu klal shel Reb Meir. What's Reb Meir's klal? Shvua she'ein lochem biyodi. Lochem, right? If Shimon, Levi, Yehudi, Yisachar, and Zvulun say, Ruvain, give us our stuff, and he says, Shvua she'ein lochem biyodi, you all don't have anything with me. That is Reb Meir's klal. That's his lump, and that is what you b'chayiv. Just that's where that is where Reuven would be chayiv just one Oshem Gezelus Shnaikis. Okay, Cheve, how you doing? I told you it's very detailed. Lo licha, vilo licha, lo licha, lo licha, lo licha, vilo licha, vilo licha. Akoponim, lochem. Wow. How y'all doing? Y'all doing great? Great. Okay. Now, what exactly is this machlokes about? This machlokes between Shmuel and Reb Yechanan. Shmuel dayek mi brisa. Shmuel is medayek from the brisa that we just learned with Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda and Reb Shimon and Reb Elazar. Reb Yochanan dayek mi masnisin, whereas Reb Yochanan is drawing his opinion from our Mishnah. Shmuel dayek mi brisa. Shmuel is medayek from brisa. Remember, Shmuel's opinion is that Reb Meir and Reb Yehuda are inverses of each other. So Shmuel dayek mi brisa. So Shmuel is being medayek his opinion from the brisa that we quoted to begin our daf today. Midika Amar Reb Yehuda vilo licha prata have. So Shmuel wants to say that from the fact that Reb Yehuda is responding to Reb Meir and essentially saying ma pitom vilo licha is a prat, he's basically saying to Reb Meir, ma pitom vilo licha is not a klal. Vilo licha is a prat, implying that vilo licha, according to Reb Meir, therefore is a klal. So again, mitkam Reb Yehuda vilo licha prata ave. From the fact that Reb Yehuda is responding to Reb Meir and saying, essentially, what are you talking about? Vilo licha is not a klal; it's a prat. Michlal de shamei l'Reb Meir d'Amar klala have. Implying that he heard Reb Meir say that vilo licha is a klal, and therefore Reb Yehuda is responding and saying, no, it's a prat. V'amar Reb Yehuda prat ave. Reb Yehuda is saying, no, it's a prat. And therefore, Reb Yehuda says vilo licha is a prat, and Reb Meir is saying vilo licha is a klal. And therefore, what is the klal according to Reb Yehuda? It's lo licha. And what is the prat according to Reb Meir? It's lo licha. That they're basically the inverses of each other. Reb Yechanan Omar, Reb Yochanan says no. When Reb Yochanan looks at that brisa, he says no. Reb Yehuda is not responding and saying Ma pitom Reb Meir klal, vilo lecha is not a klal, it's a prat. No, that's not what's going on. What's going on is that it says Reb Yochanan, that Reb Meir had said that both vilo lecha and lo lecha were prats, to which Reb Yehuda is responding and saying, no, only vilo lecha is a prat, lo lecha is not. Prat, not. So Reb Yochanan says, Reb Yochanan tarvayu li Meir prata have. Reb Meir says that both lo lecha and vilo lecha are prats. Ve'omer le Reb Yehuda, and Reb Yehuda responds to Reb Meir and he says, look, bivilo lecha modina lach. I agree that vilo lecha is a prat. However, bilo lecha pligana alach. I argue with lo lecha. I say that is a klal. Ushmuel, and Shmuel would respond to Reb Yochanan and that say that Shmuel would respond to Reb Yochanan and say that would be irregular. Normally, Tanoim are expressing what they argue about, not what they agree about. Usually, of course, in Mishnayos and Brises, we have differing opinions. It would be strange for Rabbi Yehuda all of the sudden in this particular brisa to say, and Rabbi Yehuda says, I agree with you when it comes to velo lecha. Normally, argues Shmuel, Rabbi Yehuda would be saying, I disagree with you with regarding to velo lecha. It's not a klal, it's a prat. But Rabbi Yochanan would have you say that Rabbi Yehuda is saying, I agree with you, Rabbi Meir, that velo lecha is a prat, just so, but lo lecha is not. But he doesn't say lo lecha is not. And therefore, says Shmuel, ade odile oduye liflog ole ifluge. That Shmuel argues with Rabbi Yochanan and says that it's weird that Rabbi Yehuda would be coming to say what he agrees with Rabbi Meir about. Normally, you would expect that Rabbi Yehuda would be saying what he disagrees with Rabbi Yehuda about. And Rabbi Yehuda would be saying what he disagrees with Rabbi Meir about. And therefore says Shmuel that from the fact that Rabbi Yehuda is saying vilo lecha is a prat must imply that Rabbi Meir holds that it is a klal. Okay? So that is Shmuel's opinion, that Rabbi Meir and Rabbi Yehuda are inverses of each other. Rabbi Meir says that vilo lecha is a klal, lo lecha is a prat, and Rabbi Yehuda says fakert, which is that lo lecha is a klal and vilo lecha is a prat. Rabbi Yochanan dayik mi masnisin, and Rabbi Yochanan is medayik from our Mishnah, because of course Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir, as we know. The assumption is that the teacher of the Mishnah is Reb Meir. Like the default opinion in the Mishnah is Reb Meir. And what did our Mishnah say without attributing anybody? I will read you our Mishnah. Our Mishnah had said, Hayu Chamisha Tovim also, right? Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, and Yisachar and Zvulun were all saying, Reuven, give us our stuff. They said to him, again, we're assuming this is Reb Meir's opinion. And they said to him, give us our stuff. If he says, I don't have all of your stuff, he lumps them all together, in that case, he's chayav once. But Reb Yochanan wants to say, implying that both Shvua, but implying that according to Reb Meir, that both Shvua she'ein lecha shvua shelo lecha lo lecha as well as Shvua shelo lecha vilo lecha are both prats. You would be chayiv for each one. So according to Reb Meir. So again, so Rabbi Yochanan daik masnisin. Rabbi Yochanan is medaik from our Mishnah. B'dikam Reb Meir shvua she'ein lochem biyadi klala have. Now, from the fact that Rabbi Meir, meaning the Stam Mishnah, which we're assuming is Rabbi Meir, is saying that Reuben says to them, "Shvush ein lachem biyadi." I don't have anything from all y'all. So, and we're saying that is where he's going to be chayav once. That is the klal. So, she'ein lachem biyadi klal have michlal. That implies develo lecha prata have. That Reb Meir would say that velo lecha is a prat. Right? Shmuel wants to say that Reb Yehuda, or that Reb Meir would treat velo lecha as a klal. Right? Shmuel says that Reb Meir would treat velo lecha as a klal. However, Reb Yochanan says, no, from the fact that the Mishnah says Shevuos she'ein lochem biyadi is the klal, and we're assuming that's Reb Meir's opinion, then that must mean that velo lecha is a prat according to Reb Meir, not a klal. Disagadaitech velo lecha klala hava, because if you would think like Shmuel would have you think that according to Reb Meir velo lecha is a klal, adamashmalon shvua shein lochem biyadi. Well, instead of teaching that Shevuos she'ein lochem, where he clearly lumps them all together, you're only chayev once, that's an obvious scenario. But if you're saying that velo lecha is a klal, like Shmuel would have you think, well then tell us a bigger chiddush. Nashma'inon shvua lo lecha velo lecha. Tell me that velo lecha is a klal. V'chol shekain Shevuos she'ein lochem biyadi, and certainly Shevuos she'ein lochem biyadi is going to be a klal. So from the fact that we have to say Shevuos she'ein lochem, that implies that according to Reb Meir, argues Reb Yochanan, velo lecha is a prat. But now Shmuel pushes back against Reb Yochanan. U'Shmuel Omar kol Omer velo lecha ke Omer Shvua she'ein lochem biyadi dami. Shmuel says, meh, saying velo lecha is the equivalent of saying she'ein lochem. So therefore I don't need, right? Basically it's the same thing, and therefore it didn't need to say velo lecha. Velo lecha is basically the same thing as lochem. And therefore Shmuel says, according to Reb Meir, whether he says lochem, whether he says velo lecha, it's the same thing, and you'll only be chayiv once. According to Reb Meir, would be a klal. Frag the Gemara Tanan, lo lecha, velo lecha. Our Mishnah had said, and we're saying that Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir, i.e. we want to say, therefore we're assuming that it's the opinion of Reb Meir, that velo lecha, chayiv al kol achas v'achas, is a prat. Which would be a kasha on Shmuel, who says that according to Reb Meir, it's a klal. And you only be chayiv once. Tni lo lecha. So Shmuel would say, okay, teach lo lecha is a prat and chayav al kol achas v'achas, but velo lecha would be a klal according to Reb Meir. Tashma, come near. Tenli pikadin, also from our Mishnah. Tenli pikadin, utzumes yad, v'gezel, va'aveda. And we're saying it's chayav al kol achas v'achas. So again, if this is the opinion of Reb Meir, so then we see that velo lecha, or in this case, vitzumes yad, v'gezel, va'aveda, is where you're chayav al kol achas v'achas. And it would not be considered a klal. Tni, tzumes yad, gezel, aveda. So we say, we'll just drop the vavs. Tashma, tenichitin, visorin, vichusmin. The Mishnah also said, if he says, give me wheat, visorin, and barley, vichusmin, and spelt, and we're saying that it's considered prat, tni, sorin, kusmin. So again, drop the vavs, and that's why it's a prat, according to Shmuel, explaining Reb Meir. V'hai tana, kol hachi, shavish, tani v'azil. But I don't understand. This was the Tana. Was Rebbe Nasi writing this Mishnah at the end of Purim when he was Adiloyodabein Arahaman Lebarach Matre? Was he fashnikid? I don't understand. Every single clause in this Mishnah is wrong. We have to literally go through the entire Mishnah and just put a red ink through every single vav. That seems weird. I'm saying, you tell me to fix every single line of the Mishnah? That doesn't make sense. So you say, you know what, Yataka right. However, actually, yes, we usually say Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir, but here actually it is not the opinion of Reb Meir. What you are seeing in the Mishnah is the opinion of none other than Rabbeinu HaKadosh himself, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi himself. Amani Rebbe, this is actually, what you're seeing in the Mishnah is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda Nasi. Rebbe the Omar, who says, Loi shna kazayis kazayis veloshna kazayis vichazayis prata ave. This is a Gemara from Pigel, which I think we're going to get to maybe in Zvachim. But anyways, basically, Rebbe's opinion is that whether you have the vav, whether you don't have the vav, it is the same thing. So this is not the opinion of Reb Meir, it's the opinion of Rebbe. However, argues Shmuel, Reb Meir would hold that vilo lecha would be considered a klal. Tashma, come here, midide. Well, come in here from Reb Meir himself. In our Mishnah, we see the opinion of none other than Reb Meir himself. Reb Meir Omer afilu chita v'soira v'kusemes chayva kol achas v'achas. We see the opinion of Reb Meir himself. He's saying it with the vavs is a prat. Tini chita soira kusemes. Oh, so Shmuel would say just drop the vav. Kilu, we're not going to drop the vav in all of the other places because that's the opinion of Rebbe. But here's the opinion of Reb Meir, and here we're saying drop the vavs. That's why it's a prat. Okay, Maya filu, and what's the deal with Reb Meir saying that like even if he says chita saora kusemis instead of chitin saorin v'kusmin, Hamavacha brei the Reb Ika afilu chita bichlal chitin v'saora bichlal saorin v'kusemis bichlal kusmin. What it's saying is that even though they said give me the chitin and he says I don't have chita, they said saorin, he says saora, they said kusmin, he says kusemis. It's still basically the Zalvazach. It's the same thing. Wow, Cheve, how are you doing that? This was redunculously technical. But alright, I'll go. Okay, now we're going to see a Gemure that we actually saw the other day on Daf Chov Gimel. Wow, 2 weeks ago already? My oh my, time flies when you're having a blast. Okay. Tein li pikarim v'tzumes yad gezel v'aveda sheish lecha b'yad v'chulei tein lichitim v'sorin. Okay. Rabbi Yechanan pruta mikulam mitztarfin. Says Rabbi Yechanan that a pruta from all of them could be mitztarif. Okay. So basically, so what did the Mishnah say? What did the Mishnah say? The Mishnah said that. Okay, where are we? Okay. Ten lichitim v'sorin v'kusmin sheish li biyadcha. Shvur she'en lecha biyadi, ein chayv ela achas. Shvur ein lecha biyadi lichitim v'sorin v'kusmin chayv kol achas v'achas. Okay, fine. Beseder. Be'etzem. Okay, so if you have, I'm just thinking for a second. Okay, so let's just assume that. Okay, so for now, let's assume that you're talking about one person. Okay, so Shimon goes to Reuben and says, "Hey, give me your Okay. So basically, the Mishnah says there's a Reisha and a Seifa. In the Reisha, you have Shimon goes to Reuven and says, "Give me my chita, right? Chitin sorin v'kusmin." Reuven says, "Right, shvur that I don't have it." So in that case, he's chayav 1 asham ilos. Okay, that's the Reisha. In the Seifa, he says, "Shvur that I don't have chitin sorin v'kusmin." There is chayav 3 asham mi'ilos, 1 for each denial. Now, says Rabbi Yochanan that now Rabbi Yochanan pruta mikulam mitzdarefes. Says Rabbi Yochanan. So let's just talk about the Reisha for a second. Right, Shimon comes and says to Reuven, "Give me my chitin sorin v'kusmin." Reuven says, "I don't have them." So right, he swears that he doesn't have them. So he's chayav to bring 1 asham gizelus. But says Rabbi Yochanan, that's only if in total between the chitin sorin and kusmin there is at least the equivalent between the 3 of them, at least a value of 1 pruta. So even if each was a third of a pruta, but together they create 1 pruta, which is a basic amount. So then you would have to bring a asham gizelos. Now in the Seifa, where he says, "I don't have chitin," right? Shvur that I don't have shein chabiyadi chitin sorin v'kusmin. So in that case, he has to bring 3 asham gizeloses. So then he would have to have at least a shavar. Since we're bringing 3 separate asham gizeloses, each thing that he denies, which is a separate denial, would have to have a shavar pruta for each. So you'd have to have at least a pruta of chitin, at least a pruta of sarin, at least a pruta of kusmin. Okay. Now the question is, in the Seifa, when he says shvush ainli chitin v'sorin v'kusmin, and we say that he's chai for each one, Okay? So in the Seifa, when we say that he's chayiv for each one, is that in addition to bringing a fourth Asham Gezelos for sort of all of them together? So when he says Shevuos she'ein lecha biyadi, is that one denial for everything? So he has to bring one Asham Gezelos for that. And then he says Chitin, Sorim, Kusmin, and then he brings an additional 3 Asham Gezeloses for each of his denials, Chitin, Sorin, and Kusmin. So is he bringing a total of 4 Asham Gezeloses? Or is it only 1 for Chitin, 1 for Sorin, 1 for Kusmin? So 3 Asham Gezeloses, not a 4th for Shevuos she'ein lecha, for like that general denial. And an Afkamina is also, does Rabbi Yochanan's opinion therefore apply to the Seifa? Meaning, if let's say you had a third of a pruta of Chitin, a third of a pruta of Sorin, a third of a pruta of Kusmin, that tzazamen together they create a pruta, but not individually, so then you would not be bringing an Asham Gezelos for Chitin, Sorin, and Kusmin individually, because you don't have a shavar pruta of each. But if you're also bringing a 4th Asham Gezelos for kind of, all of them generally, well then we would be able to join them together for that one. So the question is, would you be bringing at least that Asham Milos in that case? Asham Gezelos in that case. So even in a case where there's like less than a shavar pruta of each, and you wouldn't be bringing for the individuals, you would still though bring that one. So the general one. So this is kind of what we're talking about over here. So Rabbi Yechanan pruta mikulam mitzaref. So Rabbi Yechanan says that the Chitin, Sorin, and Kusmin can join together to create a shavar pruta. Certainly in the ratio where he says Shevuos she'ein lecha biyadi, that he kind of lumps them together, so then they would be able to join together to create a pruta, and you would be chayiv to bring an Asham Gezelos. Plige ba Rav Acha v'Ravina. So machlokes Rav Acha and Ravina, and I don't remember. I think I pointed out the last time we had this machlokes that whenever there's machlokes Rav Acha and Ravina, we generally paskin, not paskin, but generally the more lenient one, I don't remember, is maybe Ravina, and the more stringent one is Rav Acha. But like one of them, I think is generally the more lenient opinion. The other one's the more stringent opinion. Akoponim. Chad Omar apirte mechayev aklale lo mechayev. One opinion is that you're only chayev for the specifics. You're chayiv an Asham Gezelos, right, in the Sefer. You're chayiv an Asham Gezelos for Chita, a separate one for Sa'ara, a separate one for Kusemis, but not, right, aklale lo mechayev, but you wouldn't be chayiv a 4th Asham Gezelos for the general Shevuos she'ein lecha biyadi, for the general denial. The other opinion is that you're also chayiv a 4th Asham Mi'ilos in the Asham Gezelos in the Sefer. Sorry, I keep on saying Asham Mi'ilos. Now let me ask you a kasha, says the Gemara, that Reb Chia's opinion is that when there are 5 claimants, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zvulun are saying, Ruvain, you owe us Chitin, Sorin, v'Kusmin, and he makes all these denials, he would have to bring 15 Asham Gezeloses. So doesn't that seem to be implying that 5 claimants and 3 denials per each one for a total of 15? And if there was also that sort of general one for each one, a 4th one, then it would be 5 times 4, which is 20, not 15. Vim Isa, if there was a sort of 4th one as well, Esrim Avin, it should be 20, not 15. Haitano, Departe Loka Chashiv. Well, you can still say that it is, you can still say that there is a 4th korban, just that when Reb Chia was quoting this brisa that says 15, the time of the brisa was only counting the specifics, he wasn't counting the general ones, but you would also bring a general one. Okay, Dechlali Loka Chashiv, he wasn't counting the general ones. Okay. V'atani Reb Chia Arekan Esrim, but there's another brisa though, which says Arekan Esrim Chatos. So now we ask, well, there's actually another brisa that says that there are 20 chatases. So isn't this actually a question on the opinion who says that there is no 4th one for each? Because then how do you get to 20? Meaning if we have one brisa that says 15, one brisa that says 20, say no problem, one of them is counting the general one of them isn't counting the general one. But if you say that there's no general one, there's only for the Chitin, Sorin, and Kusmin, but not a general denial, so then how do you get to 20? Well, you can answer that, no, there is no general Ashram Gizelis. However, that could be talking about the scenario where they're claiming 4 things, and he's denying 4 things times 5 people is 20. That would be Apikadon, Tzumis Yad, Gezel, and Aveda. Okay. Exciting stuff here at Babylon Talmud. Ba'amine Rav Rav Nachman. Rav asks Rav Nachman, are you Chamisha Tevin Esei? If Shimon, Levi, Yehudi, Yisachar, and Zvulun were claiming from Ruvain, V'amru lo, and they said to him, Tein lanu pikadon, tzumis yad, v'gezel, v'aveda. So each one's claiming 4 things from Ruvain. Sheish lanu b'yadcha, that you have of ours. Amr le'echad, man. He said to one of them, Shevuos she'en lecha b'yadi pikadon, tzumis yad, gezel, v'aveda. So to one of them, he denies all 4 things. But then he looks at the rest of them and he says, V'lo lecha, v'lo lecha, v'lo lecha, v'lo lecha. And then for each of the remaining, he says, v'lo lecha, v'lo lecha, etc. So is he saying 4 times 5, or is he only chayiv 4 to the first one, who he denied all 4 things, but then the rest of them, it's just a general denial for each one, so i.e. another Ashram Gizelos for each one, i.e. another 4. So for the first of the 5 guys, he's denying 4 things, so he has to bring 4 Ashrams for that, but then he's only making a general denial for each of the remaining 4, so there's only 1 for each one of those, so 4 plus another 4 is a total of 8, or is it 4 times 5 for a total of 20? Mao Achadim Chayiv is only Chayiv individually for the first guy, but the rest of them is only Chayiv 1 for each, so a total of 8. Or maybe for each of the 5, he's Chayiv 4 korbanos. 5 times 4 is 20. Tashma Kaminir, the Tani Reb Chia, the Reb Chia taught Arekan Esther. Well, Reb Chia taught that there are 20 korbanos that he's bringing. Arekan Esther Chatos. There are 20 chatases. Why are you calling these chatases? They're technically ashrams, right? Yeah, there should be, I think. Either parish Reb Chia minyana asal ashminon. So what's the scenario where Reb Chia is telling us that he has to bring 20 korbanos? If it's talking about where there were 5 people and he looked at each one and he said, I don't know you. I don't even remember. Pikadon tzumas yad gezel aveda. And I don't know you. Pikadon, Tzumis Yad, Gezel Aveda, and he does that 5 times. Well, is Reb Chia just doing math for us? Well, we can't do 5 times 4 on our own. That's obvious. So, Ela Lav, de lo parish, Vishmamina Prateyabe. Rather, what Reb Chia is telling us is a scenario where he says, Pikadon Tzumis Yad, Gezel Aveda, V'lo lecha, v'lo lecha, v'lo lecha, v'lo lecha. Reb Chia is teaching us is in that case, he's taka chayev 20 times. Hazoi. Onasu fitisa is biti v'chuleis. Now we saw a machloikes between the Rabbanan and Reb Shimon. That if Shimon says to Reuven, you ones umefater my daughter, so and he swears that he didn't. So the shaila is, would he be chayev? Would he be chayev a korban? So Reb Shimon says no, because it's talking about a fine. It's talking about the 50 silver coins that he owes, and that's a fine. Therefore, it'll be potter for denying the fine. Whereas the Chacham say no, he's chayiv because there's also the mammon. There's the bosh. There's the nezek tsar ripui shevis and boshes. No, boshes and pagam. So there's the boshes and the pagam, and that's mammon. So where are we? So Amr Reb Chia bar Abba Amr Yechanan. My time with Reb Shimon. How come Reb Shimon says potter? Hol ve'ikar knas utoveh. Well, because the main thing that Shimon is claiming from Reuven is the 50 silver coins, and because that's a knas, he's going to be potter for it. Amr Rava says Rava Mashal to Reb Shimon the Ma'adavar Dome says Rava. Let me give you a mashal for this scenario of Reb Shimon. Here's the mashal, says Rava. The Adam she Omar lachavero, that a person says to his friend, let's say Shimon says to Reuven, Tein li, or how about this? Geva says to Itamar, I think it's low stakes enough for a mashal. Itamar and Geva make our friend Reb Adiel happy. It's Rabbi Adiel's bar mitzvah coming up. Taka, when this daf goes live, this mamish must be right. Wait, Taka. Yeah, Adiel's bar mitzvah parsha is Bamidbar, if I remember correctly. I'm recording this on Erev Shabbos Parshas Bamidbar. Azoi. Rabbi Amir, Rabbi Adiel. Mazel tov. Maybe I'll taka. Okay. Givaldik. Mazel tov, Rabbi Adiel. So Rabbi Adiel's bar mitzvah. Rabbi Adiel should grow up to be a big Talmid Chacham. Big Talmid Chacham. Anyway, so Adiel's friends, Itamar and Geva. So in our mashal, where are we? So the Adam Shamar LaChavero. Geva says to Itamar, Tein li chitin v'sorin v'kusmin sheyesh li. Hey Itamar, give me the wheat and barley and spelt. Give me my wheat and barley and spelt. Sheyesh li biyadcha. Amar lo, and Itamar says, Shevuos she'ein l'cha biyadi chitin, and he says, I swear that I don't have chitin, wheat. Okay. V'ishtekach de chitinu de leisle, and it turns out he doesn't have wheat. Hasaorin v'kusmin isle, but he does have barley and spelt. The potter, and Itamar would be potter for this, because all he did was deny the barley, but the wheat, and he was telling the truth about that, even though he had the barley and the spelt. It's it's kind of a weird mashal. That when Itamar swore about the wheat, he was telling the truth, because he only had the barley and the spelt. Okay, kind of a funny mashal. Amar le Abai says to Rava, midami. What does this mashal isn't really like our scenario where Shimon is being tovea from Ruvain, kind of like ones and mafata stuff, and Ruvain saying, I don't know what you're talking about. These scenarios are not analogous, because by Itamar and Geva, Itamar was saying, I don't have wheat, but he didn't say anything about the barley and the spelt. Hacha, but over here with Reuven and Shimon, bechula milsa hudika kafarle, Reuven is denying everything. Halodami ella, what it's more similar to is Lomer lechavero, that Geva says to Itamar, Tein li chitin v'sorin v'kusmin sheish li biyadcha. Geva says to Itamar, give me the wheat, barley, and spelt that you have. Shvush ein lecha biyadi klal. I don't have anything. Vishtika chitinu deleisle. And then it turned out that he doesn't have wheat, hasarim v'kusmin isle, but he does have barley and spelt, but he had denied everything. The mechayiv, of course, he's going to be chayiv in that scenario, because he was lying. Elo, ki asa Ravin rather, so that was like a weird kind of mashal, but he's like kind of denying everything, but the truth is, he's really only potter for the knas, in this case, but the other things he would be chayiv to. So in the mashal with Itamar and Geva, it would be like Itamar's denying everything, but really he just doesn't have the wheat, but he does owe the barley and the spelt. Okay, anyways. Elaki also Ravin Reb Yochanan, rather when Ravin came, he says the name of Reb Yochanan, the divrei Reb Shimon, that according to Reb Shimon, knasu tovea velo boshes ufagam. The divrei chacham av boshes ufagam tovea. Boshes ufagam tovea. So when Ravin comes, he explains the name of Reb Yochanan. Here is the deal. Here's the machlokus between Reb Shimon and the chacham. Reb Shimon's opinion is that when Shimon comes to Ruvain and he says, "Hey, you were honest and mafata my daughter," Shimon's main claim is on the knas, is on the 50 silver coins, according to Reb Shimon. According to the Chachamim, no, the ikar claim is on the boshes and pagam, which is mammon. Now, Micah Mifligay, what are they arguing about? Reb Papa says, Reb Shimon knows lo shavik inish midi the kits, vitave midi the lo kits. That Reb Papa explains that Reb Shimon's opinion is that when Shimon comes to Reuven, and he can be claiming, either the 50 silver coins, which is a fixed amount, or the Boshes Ufgam, which is going to be a relative amount. We'll have to evaluate what her embarrassment or Pigam was. So then in that case, so therefore, according to Shimon, Shimon's mind is going to be on the fixed amount. For Rabbanan Savra, the rabbis say, yeah, but the thing is that the fixed amount, the fine, is a knas, and modeh b'knas is potter. Rabbanan Savra, lo shavik midi dechi modeh be lo mipater, v'tov midi dechi modeh be mipater. A person is not going to forego something that is always going to be there, that he can't just admit that he did it and be potter from it. He's not gonna, right? So, and instead go for the 50 silver coins, where he could just say, yeah, I did it, and then he won't have to pay it, right? So therefore, they're going to be, their mind is going to be on the Boshes and Pagam, which is just kind of like always going to be there. Azoi. And therefore, they say that he's going to be, since he's thinking about the Boshes and Pagam, he's going to be chayev for that. Hajun Olach, Shevuos HaPikodin. I'll come back to you, Perek Shevuos HaPikodin. And now, we begin the 6th parak of Masechta Shevuos. My plan is, I would like to learn this Mishnah, and then we'll call it a day. Shevuos HaDayanin. So Shevuos HaDayanin is a Shvuah that happens in court, that Bezdin makes somebody swear, and my understanding is that the main focus of this parak is going to be on Modeh b'miktzas hatayna yishava. And Modeh b'miktzas. Who can tell me what are like some other examples of Shevuos HaDayanim? What are some other examples? What are some other examples of Shevuos HaDayanim? Well, one aid, right? If one aid, as we learned about the other day, right? If there's only one aid, so then one aid can be mechayev a shvuah. What's the other scenario? So the Art Scroll had an introduction to this parak in which he mentioned that there were 3 scenarios of Shevuos HaDayanim. One of them is Modeh b'miktzas. One of them is Shevuos Eid Echad, and Shevuos HaShomrim. Of course. So for example, right, if like a Shomer Chinam says that the thing was stolen from him, so he swears and he's potter. But my understanding is that the main focus of this parak is going to be Shevuos HaDayanim is specifically going to be on Modeh b'miktzas hatayna, which of course is, well, we're going to learn all about it now, but it's a partial admission. So Shevuos HaDayanin. So when it comes to Shevuos HaDayanin, that Shevuah that the courts make you swear, which is pretty cool that we're learning this, because we've been kind of like discussing Shevuos HaDayanim for ages. I mean, I'd say ever since like Bava Kama. It's probably where we really started getting into these kinds of things. But yeah, I mean, we learned, what was it, yesterday? We learned about, I think it was yesterday, right? We learned about Toyin Tainis Ganif. That was already requiring swearing and stuff. And so now here's the Perek, Shevuos HaDayanim. It's pretty cool. This, by the way, this Mishnah Pashut feels like a Mishnah that was like taken, transplanted from the Yeshivish Masechtas. I mean, if we just look where this Mishnah is recorded, I have to imagine that like we're going to see Yeshivish Masechtas all over the place. Let's see. This is, oh my gosh, Ksubis, Bava Mitzia, Kiddushin, Bava Mitzia, Bava Basra. I mean, Bava Kama, Ksubis, Bava Mitzia, Kiddushin, Gittin. I mean, yeah, this is, this Mishnah feels like it's a transplant from the Yeshivish Masechtas. Here we go. Atayna shtei kesef v'aydoya b'shaveh pruta. All right. So if Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me 2 silver, so I think the point is not silver coins right now, but 2 clods, 2 clumps of silver. Right? So Shimon says to Reuven, you owe me 2 silver clumps. And Reuven only admits the equivalent of, and Reuven only admits the equivalent of a pruta. So he's admitting to part of it, but also denying part of it. So he's modeh b'miktzas. He's partially admitting to the claim. So in that case, we say that we're concerned. What exactly was the Kuf Zayin in Masechet Bava Kama? What was the lashon? Of course, when he's kofar bakol, he's potter because Ein Odamei is panav b'fnei balchova or whatever b'fnei misha or something. Ein Odamei is panav, and because the moed b'miktzas, was there? Yeah. Anyways, but the whole point was that he doesn't want. There was like a whole svara that like really he does owe all the money, but he doesn't want to. But he doesn't also have the money. So he figures I'll just say half now, and then like later on I'll pay him back. But so the Torah says, look, if you're going to say that it's only half, swear that you're telling the truth. Okay. So now, so Ataina shtei kesef. If Shimon says, hey, you owe me 2 clumps of silver. V'audah b'shava pruta, and Reuven admits to the equivalent of a pruta. So he's admitting to part of the claim. So he's got to swear that he's telling the truth. V'im ein audah mimin hataina potter. But if what Reuven admits to is from like if Shimon is saying I lent you 2 oranges and Reuven says you lent me 1 apple. So then, I mean, they might both be considered fruit, but the classic example of apples and oranges. So kilu, if Shimon is claiming apples and Reuven's admitting to oranges, so potter, that would not be considered modeh b'miktzas ketzad. So what's an example? Shtei kesef li biyodcha ein lecha biyadi ela pruta potter. Exactly. So kilu, if Shimon says to Reuven, I lent you 2 clumps of silver. And he says, you lent me 1 pruta coin. So then potter, because we're talking about clumps and coins. Those are 2 separate things. Shtei kesef upruta biyadcha ein lecha biyadi ela pruta chai. But if Shimon says 2 clumps and also a pruta coin you have, and he says all I have is the pruta coin, well then he'd be chai. Mana li biyadcha ein lecha biyadi potter. If Shimon says to Reuven, hey Reuven, you owe me 100 zuzes, and you say I owe you 0 zuzes, potter. Well, right. That's kol for akol. It's going to be potter, at least midoraisa. Mana li biyadcha ein lecha biyadi ela chamishim dinar. But if Shimon says, Reuven, you owe me 100 zuzes / dinars, they're the same thing, and Reuven says I only have 50 dinars. Chayiv. Well, that's modeh b'miktzas, so he's chayiv, right? Shimon says 100, Reuven says 50, Reuven's chayiv. Mana le'aba b'yadcha. Okay, so I think that we're going to have the Gemara tell us more info about this, I think. But anyways, Shimon says to Reuven, my father has 100 zuzas. You have 100 zuzas that belong to my father. Ein lo biyadi elo nun dinar. No, all I have here is 50 dinars belonging to your father. Potter. So in that case, Reuven is actually potter. It's not considered modeh b'miktzas mipnei shehu kamesh v'aveda. It's like he's returning a lost object, since he could have denied all of it, but he's admitting to part of it, so he could have denied all of it and he's being potter. So the fact that he's actually saying that he has 50, it's like he's actually returning a lost object that really was completely gone, but now he's returning it. The question is, why is this necessarily different than just like any case of modeh b'miktzas? I think the Gemara is going to talk about it, though I haven't gotten there yet. Mana li b'yodche. If Shimon says to Reuven, hey, you owe me 100 zuzes, Amar lo, and Reuven says, hey, yes. L'machar amar lo, t'neuli. The next day Shimon says to Reuven, give him to me. Nisativ l'cha. Reuven says, I gave him to you. Potter. Right, he's potter. Ein l'cha biyadi chayv. But if he says, I don't have him, well then he's chayv, because yesterday he said he had him. Right? He's talking about where there were witnesses that he has it. Or that he at least admitted to having it. Mana li biyadcha. Shimon says to Reuven, hey, you owe me 100 zuzes. Amar lo hein, Reuven says, yup. Al titneu li ela be'edim. And then Shimon says, great. I want you to pay them back to me, but only in front of witnesses. L'machar amar lo tneu li. The next day Shimon says, okay, Reuven, pay up. Nisativ l'cha. And Reuven says, I already did. I paid you. Chayav, Reuven's chayav in that case, because they had agreed that he would have to pay it back in front of witnesses. So if he had paid it back, then where are the witnesses? Litra zav yesh li biyadcha ein l'cha biyadi el litra kesef. If Shimon says to Reuven, hey, give me a litra of gold, and he says, gold? I have a litra of silver. So those are apples and oranges, and therefore potter. Now dinar zav yesh li biyadcha. If Shimon says, hey, I have a dinar of zav that you have with me. A dinar of gold is 25 silver sellas, and I think it's 2 dinars in a sella. So I think it's 25 one. Okay, so he's saying what? He's saying he just gets into those all conversions basically. But dinar zav is 25. A dinar zav. I can't. Wait, is a dinar zav 25 silver? Oh, wait. I think they have the chart here. Let me see. Not that it's like super important right now, but okay. What do we have here? Yeah, a dinar of gold is 25 silver dinars. Okay. 2 dinars. 25. Okay, so 25 dinars of silver. That's 25 dinars. Okay. Anyways, so dinars of yesh li biyadcha. So Reuven says to Shimon says to Reuven, you have, give me my golden dinar. So ein l'cha biyadi ela dinar kesef. You only have a dinar kesef. Vitrisis or a trisis ufundio nufuta. I'm not gonna go. I don't think I'm gonna go into all these conversions right now. But if you remember from Kiddushin, from I think Bava Metzia, it came up definitely a bunch of times. All these different conversions. The point is that these all add up to each other, right? Prutas go into isars, which go into pundions, which go into what was this other? Which go into ma'as, which go into trisises, which go into dinars, etc., and sellas and golden dinars. So they're all basically the same, right? It's like pennies and nickels and dimes and dollars. It's all the same. It's all the same sort of vertical. So therefore, he would be chayiv because he's admitting to part of kind of what is being claimed of him. Chayiv. Shakol min matbei echad. It's all achas. It's all like one vertical. Kor tvua li biyadcha. Shimon says, give me back my core of grain. Ein chabiyadi ela lesech kidnis. I have half a core of beans. Potter. That's considered apples and oranges, I guess. Core peris li biyadcha ein chabiyadi ela lesech kidnis. Chayiv shekidnis bichlal. Peris. If Shimon says, hey, give me a core of fruits, Reuven says, all I have is a core of beans. All I have is a lesech, which is half a core of beans. He would be chayiv for that because beans are in the fruit family. Taino chitin v'odolo b'sorin potter v'Rabbi Gamliel mechayiv. If Shimon says, hey, give me my wheat, and he says, I got barley, he's potter for that. But Rabbi Gamliel says he's chayiv for that. Hatorin lachaver b'kadei shemen v'odolo b'kankanim. Shimon is saying, hey, give me jugs of oil, but he says all I have is pitchers. Did I technically translate that right? Let's see. How do you define these things? Jugs and jars. Jugs and jars. That's nice. Jugs and jars. So Shimon's asking for jugs of oil, but Reuven's admitting to jars of oil. Admon says that would be considered modeh b'miktzas, so yes, this wherever Chacham whereas the Chacham say no, those are apples and oranges. Rabbi Gamliel says, I agree with Admon. To'ano kelim v'karkuis. If Shimon says, Reuven, give me back my vessels and my properties. And Reuven admitted to the vessels, but denied the properties, or if he admitted to the properties, but denied the vessels, potter, that's not considered modeh b'miktzas. Hodeh b'miktzas hakarkaos, if he admitted to part of the karkaos, he's also potter, because I assume the point is because you don't swear on karkaos. B'miktzas hakelim, but if he admitted to part of the kelim, chayav, well then he's going to be chayav because he's modeh b'miktzas on the kelim, and then once he has to swear for the kelim, I think then will be magalgal the shvua also for the karkaos. Chayav she'nechasim she'ein lem achrayis kelim zokakin she'nechasim she'yesh lem achrayis l'shavalem. Once already you're swearing for the metaltlin, you can then swear as well for the karka. And nishbayin al tainas cheresh shota v'koton. We don't swear based on the claim of cheresh shotas and kotons. V'in mashbiyin es hakotin, and we don't have a kotin swear aval nishbayin likotin v'le'ektish. But we swear for a kotin, right? This relates to I think yisomim and people who want to collect from the yisomim. I think that they have to swear that they are owed the what they're claiming. I think that we'll probably get to that in the Gemara, as well as lehekdesh as well. That was to I don't know, I imagine we can talk. It's interesting because there's no Rashi on this part of the Mishnah. I think the Rashi must be where it comes up in the Gemara. I don't remember exactly what this is. This is I looked at it in the art school just because, again, there's no Rashi on this Mishnah. It's kind of weird. But basically, right, what is it? Probably, yeah. Wait, let me just read it quickly and then I'll just explain it. Okay, so basically, right, the hektish is that basically if Shimon lent money to Reuven defaulted on the loan, so now Shimon wanted to collect from Nechasim Shabbatim, but the Nechasim Shabbatim was made hektish to the Beis Hamikdash, so Shimon can collect it from the treasury, but he'll have to swear that he hasn't actually collected anything for it yet. Okay, we're going to stop here. So this was also Taka, another long daf. I think this may have been over an hour as well, or maybe around an hour. I can't remember. But yes, he's another long daf. We finished the fifth parak of Masechta Shevuos. We had talked about the lo lecha velo lecha and all the scenarios there at the end where you'll be chayiv. Well, at the beginning of today's daf, but at the end of the parak, will you be chayiv multiple osham gezeluses versus just one. And then we started the sixth parak Shevuos Hadayonim, and we started talking about Modeh B'Miktas, and we're going to continue talking about that tomorrow. Peace out.